Volkswagen's push for electrification has snowballed in the last couple of years. The ID.3 sold well when it finally arrived, but it looks like the ID.4 will be the real global winner. It's a fully electric SUV with plenty of space and good range, and now they're adding some power in the form of the All Wheel Drive GTX. Hello, I'm Blake Boland from EV Life Ireland.
And my name is Derek Riley from EV Review Ireland, and welcome to EV Platform. Today we are going to be talking with Mr. Blake and Mr. Derek, and I had to take off my glasses because between what we were both wearing and how we're looking today, it was going to be the twin show.
Today we are going to be talking about the Volkswagen ID.4, but we didn't want to just leave it at that because the GTX has been released as well. So we wanted to kind of weigh the two cars up, talk a little bit about the ID.4, tell you what that has to offer, and then just ask the question, is the GTX worth the extra money?
So as we know, the Volkswagen ID.4 is built on the Volkswagen Group's MEB platform, which is their multi-use vehicle platform, even outsourced to the likes of Ford. Recently announced their licensed technology, but also within the group, you're going to have the likes of the ID.3, the Skoda Enyaq, and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting and versatile platform, but we're going to be talking about the ID.4 and also the GTX today. So Blake, what are we going to cover to start with?
Yeah, well, look, one of the things that we want to do as well is we're going to keep it a little bit vague on purpose in terms of the spec, because where I'm based here in Ireland, there's actually 11 different trim levels that you can get this car in, and then there's optional extras, and then we've got currency conversions, and there's grants and subsidies in each country. So what we'll probably do a little bit is just reference against the Tesla Model Y or the Mach-E or something like that. But Derek, let's just kick on and talk about the ID.4. Do you want to get inside the cabin there into the front seat and tell us a little bit what it looks like?
I've been lucky enough to be in three of them now at this stage, one a left-hand drive and two right-hand drives, and different trim levels, the ID.4 First and the ID.4 First Max. Lovely interior, great space for the front passenger and the driver, and in the back then, good space, but sometimes the people complain that the seats are a small bit high because of where the batteries are placed in the floor, that their legs are up a bit, but otherwise it is nice. You've got your central infotainment screen, you've got your screen that hangs down behind the steering wheel and the driver cluster or binnacle, whatever you want to call it. And if you're lucky enough, you'll have the heads-up display. But I'll talk about the tech down the line, but interior-wise, spacious, even better if you've got the panoramic sunroof, but not too crazy. Some people aren't happy with the touch panels and the touch sliders, but otherwise, a really nice interior.
And then, like on the exterior, to kind of reflect what you're saying, I think it's quite a clean look. You look at the front. There's no ostentatious grills or lighting. It's definitely not plain. There's no doubt about that. You kind of know you're looking at an EV when you do look at it. Some nice curves and lines in the right places. You move around the side. I like that the wheel arches, they're slightly flared and kind of bulbous. And I think it really benefits from going for the larger wheels, 20-inch, for example. For me now, dropping down to 18s or something like that would just make the car look possibly a little bit frumpy. Maybe that's just me. Around the back, clean again. I like the light bar that works its way across, although we're seeing that on so many cars these days. A little bit of black plastic trim at the end just kind of brings the eye upwards because it's quite a big rear to the car. It's a big car. Overall, I think it's quite a good looking car. It's not going to offend anybody, but at the same time, you're looking at an EV. That's my take on it, Derek.
Inside, outside, and then we go back to the inside with regards to the tech. I've references already. Depending on this trim level, you're going to get that heads-up display. I was a real big fan of this. I've got a separate video on my channel where I did a point of view where you can actually see what the hologram augmented reality is reflected on the windscreen. But the novelty economy will wear off very quickly. If you're not taking new routes all the time, you won't need the sat-nav. You have your speed up in front of you. You have your speed sign recognition. Really, what more do you want? You're not a fighter pilot looking for a heads-up display all the time. And then you've got your Volkswagen Hey ID, the voice assistant. You've got the ID lights system. Internally, tech-wise, it's not bad. It's had its software issues, but they have been over-the-air update. Even a more recent Volkswagen ID.3 that I've driven has the Android Auto wirelessly in it. So that was great to see, because at the beginning there was no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, but they're slowly but surely rolling that out. And I can see there's probably hundreds of engineers working on it at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on and just talk about the car as an EV. You know, I might mention the drivetrain first, Derek, before you go and talk about the battery and the range. It's 150 kilowatt motor in the rear. That's putting out 204 horsepower and maxing out about 310 Newton meters of torque. So it's, I don't want to say it's quick enough, because Tesla fans are going to be watching this, and we'll have some fierce comments down below. But look, it's fast enough for you to lose your license in pretty much any country in the world. You know, not going to be breaking speed records and winning the quarter-mile races, but you know, it can do enough. And then if it's not fast enough, we're going to be talking about the GTX later on anyway, to see if that perks it up for you. But Derek, do you want to talk a bit about battery and range?
Yeah, and you were talking about rear-wheel drive there, Blake, and with that GTX, you're going to have that all-wheel drive with that motor in the front as well. Powering the regular ID.4, you have two different battery sizes. You've got a 82 kilowatt gross in the larger one, that's 77 net, and that have a range of about 487 to 519 WLTP, depending on what model you go for. And then there is a 52 kilowatt net battery, 52 kilowatt hour battery, and that has a range of about 340. And having driven both specs and both battery sizes, you're going to get there or thereabouts. You're not going to get quite exactly what they're recommending, but if you're city driving, if you're driving in temperatures that aren't too cold, they're not far off. I'll give them that.
Yeah. So would you say it's a 400 kilometer car, you know, if you're going for the bigger battery?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I was getting around the 430, 440, even the 450. So yeah, there's definitely no problem. And I was doing motorway and urban driving. But speaking of driving, what is it going to be like space-wise, Blake, inside and outside?
I just, on that, Derek, I'd love to get my hands on it, because you know I'd be challenging 600s the way I drive, getting all nerdy about it. But anyway, as you've asked about dimensions,
you actually wouldn't. Let's hold on a second now. You wouldn't be happy with there's only 2-stage regen, whereas Blake likes all regens, one pedal driving, all the rest of it, rolling downhill. But yes, what are the dimensions outside?
That's for another day, Derek. Yeah, dimensions. I mean, this is a big car. To look at it, you know, keep us talking about VW, put it right beside a Tiguan. It's that kind of similar space to the eye on the outside. You get inside though, and it's got the space of the Touareg. You know, we talked about the MEB platform and how that gives you a little bit of extra space inside. Big boot, 543 litres with the seats up, fold those seats down, and that's stretching out to nearly 1,600 litres. So it's a fairly sizable car.
Yeah, they're good size. And for the money that you're getting, I think Volkswagen have hit the sweet spot here. The entry-level ID.4 is very close to the top-level ID.3. So you're going to be tempting people from that ID.3 bracket. It's going to go up against the likes of its own cousin, the Skoda Enyaq. If you're based here in Europe or in Asia, you're going to be having that competition going on. So it's definitely a very wide range of a price. And then outside of the VW group, you're going to have the likes of the Tesla Model Y. You're going to have the Ford Mach-E, the Nissan Ariya, the Hyundai i5. You're going to have the Kia EV6. This space is getting busier and busier. But when you look at prices, and this is what we're going to start talking about now in a couple of minutes, the top spec ID.4 versus the top spec GTX ID.4, or the ID.4 GTX, it's only about 5,000 euros in the difference here in Ireland. So it's going to be something similar in your country. And we're going to start chatting about now whether that GTX badge and the capability is actually worth it.
Yeah. And then depending on subsidies in the country, you know, that difference could be exaggerated or diminished. But maybe we'll kick on and just talk about the GTX a little bit, and then kind of ask the question or give our opinion on it about whether or not it's worth it.
We both have a spec sheet in front of us, Blake, but it's pretty meh. There isn't a lot really to chat about. I know we have a couple of highlights. What would you like to bring to the audience?
I'll give a couple of highlights. I've got 2 or 3 jotted down here. Do you want to mention, in terms of like aesthetics and trim and wheels and stuff like that, are there any huge difference? Can you give me anything, Derek? Come on, tell me this is an extra fog lights.
The fog lights are a couple of like diamond shapes, and you got a couple of GTX badges where the first badges, and there's colors that like the red, nice. Yeah, is it worth $5,000? What are your highlights, Blake?
Yeah, you know what, we could be upsetting a few people by saying this. Like, I love the light signatures are so much better in this, and I like having the badge, and that's going to be a personal thing. So let us know in the comments if you do believe that or you think that. What else? The major differences, right? They're adding 20 kilometers per hour onto the top speed, so from 160 up to 180. Yeah, okay. And then the 0 to 100 kilometer, 0 to 62 miles per hour time drops down from 8.5 to 6.2 seconds.
Right, drag racing to school. Okay.
Yeah. When you got to get the kids down and get back to start work, or it's very important. But then again, like, is 6.2, because the goalposts have been shifted so much by EVs over the last decade. Is 6.2 an impressive time anymore? That's another question. Like, so if you're launching a GTX brand, is 6.2 good? Derek?
I don't know. I think they've gone with the sporty aspect to this in the marketing, and I don't know whether they've hit the nail on the head right. Because really, what I'm with my 3 reviews of the regular ID.4 first edition and the Maxes, everybody was asking, not everybody, but a lot of people were asking, when's the all-wheel drive version coming? When's the four-wheel drive version coming? And that's what I think this is the unique selling feature of this car. And when you look at certain states in the US, you look at certain countries like the Nordics, four-wheel drive is the go-to. Like last year in Norway, I think the Audi e-tron was one of the best-selling electric vehicles because of that. Four-wheel drive can tow, and it is a big beast of it. It's safe on the roads. And with that 2 motors, you have that the power is up to 220 kilowatts. It's up from 150 kilowatt motor. It's going to be a bit of a beast, you know what I mean, with regards to torque and what's pulling and just that 4-wheel drive capability.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've a couple of talking points just to quickly run through as well. And then it's going to be a case of, like, would you go for it or not, Derek? We can ask each other that question. But just before we do that, this is going to be a global car, isn't it?
Yeah, made in 3 continents, Chattanooga in the US, obviously in Germany, here in Europe, and then in China. And so, like, you're going to be able, if you want this car, you're going to be able to get it wherever you want it. And with that SUV market segment being so big and so busy and growing all the time, I think Volkswagen have a real international winner. And it was the World Car of the Year this year, but that was Motoring Journalist for Motoring Journalists. But I know you've got a couple of quotes there, Blake, from inside Volkswagen.
Yeah, a couple of the top execs. Like, one is that this car, the ID ones, that they're for the millions, not the millionaires. And they wait with that lower price, the entry level ID.4. They might be right on that. It's quite competitive in that sense. And then another quote that I came across as well, and please let us know in the comments what people think of this one, is that the GTX is the GTI of the EV world. I'm not even summarizing, like that. That's what one of the top execs said. So what do you make of that, Derek? Is this a GTI?
No, to me, a GTI is a hot hatch, and I'm not even interested in combustion engines. But the people that are into GTIs and drive GTIs, they're not going to look at a family SUV and go, oh, that's the GTI of the EV world. That's what I want. When they bring out the racing version of the ID.3, then you're going to have people interested. But maybe they're talking about this GTX or the ID.3 GTX. That's what they're talking about. Whereas I don't think the racing analogy and the marketing spin on this big SUV over 2 tons, I don't think it washes. I don't think that's. But Blake, down to the serious question that everybody is tuned in for: would you buy an ID.4 GTX?
Every time you ask me this question on this show about whatever car we're talking about, I tend to just go, no. And it's possibly the same again. Why? The GTX, okay, it's an extra 5,000, but I think that at that stage, once the kind of money that we're talking about to get the GTX, I'm thinking, am I just going to save my pocket money for a little bit extra and just go for the Kia? If you're looking for speed and performance, this thing is just going to destroy the ID.4 GTX, But then again, if I'm going to be looking for an ID.4, is it worth the money for me? Probably not. I'm probably going to spec down the higher sized, the bigger battery. So probably not for me, but I will understand a lot of people going for it because of this all-wheel drive towing capability.
That's what's going to sell it. It's not going to be the GTI. It's not going to be the race in this or the race in that. It's not going to be the 0 to 60 times. You said, Blake, if I needed a 4-wheel drive, something that could tow, And the ID.4 regular can still tow, don't get me wrong, but if you're looking for that all-weather capability of snow and ice in an EV, the Volkswagen ID.4 GTX is going to be one of the ones that are going to be coming into at a price point that's cheaper than a Audi e-tron Quattro. And so you're going to get a lot of market share. I'm going to be interested to see the sales numbers of this globally.
Yeah. Look, Derek, let me flip it back on you. Would you buy it? Is it worth the extra money?
I'd probably look at the Audi e-tron. I love that car. I think it's a beautiful car. And so, like you're saying, you're saving up for your Kia. Would I just save up a bit more and go for the Audi?
Well, you'd have to save up a lot more.
Hopefully you've enjoyed today's show. Let us know in the comments where you're watching, what you're excited about. Are you thinking about a Volkswagen ID.4 GTX because you want it for the raciness of this, or is it because of the four-wheel drive? Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment. My name has been Derek Riley, and you've been watching EV Platform.
I've been Blake Boland. Thanks for watching.
Blake's hair is growing out after his haircut, and he reckons it's getting a bit more grey. But anyway, Blake, what are we talking about today?
Oh, I know it's getting more grey. I saw them falling off down onto the... Why do they always use a black sheet where you can see the greys in the hairdresser? Anyway, let's move on.